Well, peace, everyone. Peace, power, understanding, wisdom, and light to all that are coming on. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing because we have a very, very special guest. Now, you have to forgive it because I am still in the process of moving into our new home. So, this is our temporary digs until we get into the new home. I have someone very, very special I want to introduce you all to, and he's going to tell you who he is, where he hails from, and all of those beautiful things. But for now, if you don't mind, go ahead and start sharing on your pages, and I will do the same thing. I will do the same thing. And we're going to start sharing this out, and then we will start. Thank you. Thank you all for joining. My mods, please be on deck today. This is a very, very very important live that we're going to be having with a very, very special guest. I told you that we are going to be doing more community activism. We're going to see who has boots on the ground in all cities now. And this is my very, very first one. So I'm going to post that. It is posted, so now people know that we are live. And if you don't mind, also please share on your different platforms as well. So, are we ready? Are we ready? I hope we are ready. Let me introduce you to someone, and he's going to tell you who he is. And there is my special guest for the evening. Thank you. Thank you for joining us, Rabbi. How are you today?
Very good. Good. How you doing today? Thank you for having me.
I'm doing great. And this is such an honor. This is such an honor to finally get you on our panel. Oh my goodness, because you are very, very busy in the
Uh,
city. Whenever I see you, you're everywhere from city hall to the neighborhoods to you're just a very, very busy rabbi. So I do want to thank you for joining us. If you don't mind, as people are coming in, come on and tell us about who you are, first of all, and what city do you hail from?
okay. Well, first, my name is Rabbi Michael Ben Yosef. I'm the president of Tikkun Kai International. Am a community activist. I live in Chicago, the city of where a lot of the gun violence that we see in the news, a lot of the issues here. But this is the city I grew up in from a young age and everything. Was a very much a committed person of the community and just kind of grown into the things. Here, I'm a ordained rabbi. I do have just started a new online type of synagogue, a virtual synagogue that we had just launched like 2 months ago due to the COVID virus, the pandemic thing that went on within our community. Um, just a little bit about me. I'm 46 years old. I have 3 children, very very mannerable children. They they respect us. We raise them to how we have our ways of teaching them and growing up in the community. Um, that's pretty much it. I'm a bachelor of science degree major. I was ordained as a rabbi in 2014 by Rabbi Stephen Blaine. I've been in the academy for like maybe 12 years to study as a rabbi. So that's pretty much a lot of history behind that. We have rabbis in Chicago, New York, Philadelphia, all over the country, even in Africa. So we have a great history that goes in with regards to the community and how we go about that. But my work in the community pretty much is like a boots on the ground, as you said. That's why I find my niche. When I was ordained as a rabbi in 2014, my teacher said to me, "So what do you want to do with your rabbit? What do you want to do with it?" And at the time, I didn't know. I didn't have any idea. I just kind of like, well, I'm studying, so I didn't really get to that part of the study of that coming out the academy. So there was like a young lady in our community. She said, "Well, hey, Rabbi, you want to come partake with me and visit, have a show of action that we're going to put on in the community?" I said, "What action? What's that?" And she was like, "Well, action is like where you uh, you do something in the community to make a difference. So I didn't really know what community involvement was or community activist was. So I went to this action in Chicago, and I just felt the power of influence and the commitment, the power of putting sacrifice of the time and effort and energy into that. And I fell in love with the work and been pretty much involved with it ever since. So that's pretty much it for me. I mean, I'm very, very, like, as you said, I'm very out in the community. I feel that my oh, excuse me, that's my phone. I feel my work in the community is very important. Um, that I go in the community and try to make a difference and make a uh, more like to show that we're involved. You know, that's the thing is we're just not uh, to be like just in the community as to be a place of worship, but to be involved in the changes and sitting with the people and get to know people and their problems and concerns. So that was pretty much why I felt that it was very necessary for me to be there. Um, there is a lot of things that we go in our community that really is need to be changed. I found by being just kind of like amongst the people, particularly gun violence and missing women, missing children. There's a lot of drug trafficking around Chicago, but mainly the gun violence is really the key issue that I really found a real big problem by going into community activism, and I've continued to be in that. But just kind of to go back a little bit, reverse of my story. Um, the seed was set within myself because I myself was a victim of police brutality at a young age, and that kind of got me in the direction of looking at things in different perspective. But I didn't really know that was what I wanted to do with my rabbinate and my goals in being a teacher. So by being involved in that type of thing, that community activism really got me more towards looking at police brutality in a different light because of the power of influence again that made a difference. So from police brutality, gun violence, from women of color murder, and also holding accountable of the politicians and making sure they are meeting the needs of the people was really kind of like the thing for me. So
Let me ask you this, Rabbi. When you first
yes.
started out in your community activism,
hmm
how were you welcomed in the community as well as with the police force and so forth?
Well, to tell you the truth, no one knew me. I was just like kind of like a little baby in the community activism. But you have to kind of, you want to say, earn your stripes kind of thing. So you have to try kind of show yourself really like reliable when there are like meetings. So could you do like meetings and try to strategize in the groups and settings and that sort. I was very much involved with or community organizing trainings, sessions to give you like tools and to help you how to communicate and to diffuse if like say for example maybe a police officer is like kind of like a little aggressive. There's techniques that we went to class on to learn how to diffuse the situations. Or like if there's like a protester being agitated with maybe someone that's like disagreeing with our ways of messaging, how to diffuse that. So there were a lot of trainings I took part in that. But when I was involved, it got more into the meat of it. Uh, Me being a rabbi was acceptable because of the fact, there was like someone that's different. It's not like regular protester. It's someone that's of a religious faith or a faith leader that's taking part in the changes and the necessary issues that need to be resolved. So my peers and my comrades, they really showed themselves open arms to me. Of course, I'm a Jew. It wasn't like okay, do you want to talk about your faith with us? No, it was more like leave faith at the door. Just focus on the task at hand. So uh, upset to me has been very much always been a good response.
Let me ask you this: as far as and we talk about this a lot, the missing women and
Yeah.
children in Chicago. What is your theory?
Well, that's a you know that's a huge topic. The women of color missing and murdered. First, the missing murder of the serial killer that I've been working on since several years began in 2001. A lot of the viewers, a lot of people in Chicago and even around the country does not realize and understand the magnitude of this problem. I've been really been on this issue because of the lack of news coverage and the media attention that gives it the awareness it deserves. It goes back to 2001, where the patterns began in Chicago. There are several cases. Some years have been more greater numbers, and some maybe fell off. But then when you accumulate all the murders from 2001 to current 2018 and 19 was probably the last murder of the women total together. You have over 75 plus murders that's happened. That problem right now is very serious with the human trafficking and the sex trafficking. I believe those have like kind of like a link together. So that's why I take both of those issues on, believing that there could be a where there may be someone that's a perpetrator within the human trafficking world that can be part of the women of color murder kind of thing. So right now it's a invisible enemy that we're working with. We don't know the image. We can't put a face on this person. We don't know the ethnicity. We don't know the background. It could be a police officer. It could be a teacher. It could be an alderman. It could be a politician. We just don't have that information to know. But did have just recently, I mean, maybe like, I'd say like 3, 4 months ago, there was an arrest. His name is Arthur Hillard, which was the biggest part of the case of a breaking because of the amount of time of this work being done. That was the first major break that this person, Arthur Hillard, was arrested. However, because of the problem of the Illinois State Police Forensic Lab, the forensics so backlogged that they could not get that case to be where the forensics to be done to test him to see if he's linked to her, which is the victim is Diamond Turner. That is the victim that he is in question to be the perpetrator of her death. So right now, because of the backlog, he was let go, and they couldn't hold him because his rights of being a citizen and not being charged, he's able to walk free. And the big thing about that was because he was also possibly linked to other murders because of the time frame when he murdered Diamond Turner. He was still out on the loose, still doing this thing, and there was other murders that was like in the parameter area where she was murdered. So it's a real tough situation. Um, the Illinois State Police is the key of this getting resolved because there's so much. Uh, the number I gave before was 6,000. Well, that's swelled to 12,000. There's over 12,000 cases right now. They're sitting on the state police in the state police forensic lab that has not been tested. The funding and the manpower is prohibiting of this process to get done. That they can get the closure and the justice for the families and for the prosecutors to bring charges upon these perpetrators who are out there. So it just really, it's like one thing can hurt the other thing. So it's like I'm trying to find a way to get the power, the politicians to get on board to bring funding to this issue. This morning I was at um, the first congressional district politician, Bobby Rush. I was at his office today, but he wasn't there. But I was there protesting and having that on my lives to get the people, to know that this is where the key is, because his office is there. His district is probably maybe close to half of all of the Chicago murders in his district alone, the first district. So that is a vital district where all the murders took place, and we need him to use his seat to bring, if he needs to go to Congress to provide or at least write a bill to get appropriations to the state that can be serve the Illinois State Police to get the funding for them to bring bring the manpower and bring testing to a more up-to-date process.
Let me ask you this, Rabbi. As far as the missing young women and girls, I
Hmm.
found it very ironic that we have so many cameras on all of the corners. They can see what Jussie Smollett was doing, but they
Right,
can't find our children. Do you think
right.
that there's something that we're missing here? Because they can see everything else, but they can't see our girls being picked up off of the streets.
I totally agree with that because I did a protest. I actually I did a protest and I was on record. I had a press conference and I made that point very clear. I believe it was during the time of the gun violence during the labor weekend. Immediately after Labor Weekend, I did a major press conference at the 35th District, which is the police headquarters in Chicago. And I was there. And I made that point very clear that the city of Chicago is the most surveillance city in the entire United States. There are cameras literally on every light pole, on every street in the city. So I made the point on record that it's impossible for me to believe that no one has seen any one of these timings of the murders that's happening, that they can use that footage and do all the zoomings and all that stuff. And then I made a point that one of my friends is a former uh, firefighter, and he did training in the fire department. He said, well, I got to tell you something that you need to know about those cameras. He said, Rabbi, I went to a training in Chicago. He said, I went to this training in this facility that looks like abandoned building. Doesn't look like anything that you would think is some training center. But he said, when I went inside that building, he said, one room you can see literally cameras, monitors, like like from the top to the floor, spread everywhere in the room of all the cameras that are in Chicago. He said it's impossible that when you make that point about the cameras, it's impossible that the city cannot use that equipment to their advantage to find these killers and murderers in our city. And I just found that very riveting that he would bring that to me, knowing I made this comment on record during the time of that when the gun violence was happening. So coming to your question and how that is a problem, I believe that there's a disparity of where the city and even the state does not want to use that to their advantage to get the murder solved because it's the people of color. I believe there's a bit of racism involved in that, that those who are like in the seat of power, the FOP, which is the Fraternal Order of Union in Chicago, we believe that they have a role in contributing where the crimes that are committed in the city, in the areas where people of color reside, just a pass or just put under the door under the rug. You know, they deserve it. This is they killing each other anyway, so it doesn't really matter to put the resources to their issues. So that's where the challenges come at. And I went before Mayor Lightfoot one time because the outgoing mayor, Rahm Emanuel, passed a bill or introduced a bill to have the city fund a new police academy in Chicago. And guess what? Of course, in our neighborhood, not in the white neighborhood, but in our neighborhood. And I said to Mayor Lightfoot, I said, well, the outgoing mayor got this to be approved, the city council approved it. It would be more logical, knowing that the Illinois State Police Forensic Lab is backlogged, knowing that we have all these cases pending from gun violence, from rape, from robberies, from everything you could think of. All of that sitting there in that library or in that forensic lab is pending. You could take the $95 million that is on record, ready to be used, ready to be spent. That could be used appropriations for this issue to get these murders resolved. Still, nothing has happened. That's
Wow.
on record. That's on record. And when I made my point plea to her, I said to her on purpose, I asked the question, will you do it? And immediately I said, I know you won't do it. And to show what has happened since I made that statement to her, Nothing has been done. No communication, no uh, pers- uh, uh, no PSA to the community about these issues. Nothing whatsoever. So I've been just talking to dead uh, people who does not have the wherewithal to get these things resolved, and it's really at this point very frustrating. But I still stay on the case with it.
Do you think that melanated African American people were looked at as expendable? They're gonna, like you said,
Absolutely.
you're gonna kill each other anyway. So what? Who cares about another black girl, another black woman? Who cares?
And that's true.
Until it hits their home. Have you
Yep.
noticed that? Yeah. Let's talk about. Someone mentioned Kanika Jenkins.
hmm
When that occurred, what was your overall opinion as to who was at fault in that situation?
Well, the Kanika Jenkins case was a very traumatic experience for all of us. I mean, the way her murder happened, we believe she was murdered. We don't believe that she walked in that freezer and just, we believe she was murdered with that because there are several instances of issues around that, particularly where there was an interview done by Mr. Andrew Holmes that went on record. He went on record with a press conference and said that there is a camera that's overseeing the actual freezer. And I raised a question as to where is that camera that's supposed to be located right directly over that freezer. That will solve all the conspiracies and all the questions that everyone has, in particular the family, that this camera can show what was done at the time where she was out of the view. She completely disappears, but then we find the body in that freezer. We believe that is what was done. But linking her to the 75 women of color murder, I don't think that could be, in my opinion, I don't think so. That there's a link. I just believe that she was just set up by her friends, and it just went from there. That it was a tragedy that happened. But the missing link to that is that camera that I've been very much advocating and requesting. Where is that camera that's over that door? That all of a sudden all the cameras in the area are in their place, but that one camera is not there. That one camera that was over the door is not there. It's missing. So that tells me somebody or some people or some group or maybe a deeper rooting problem is clearly making this not an issue any longer. To make this to be a cover up that either the city is involved, even the police is involved, or even someone being paid to not have this be an issue any longer. That's why I'm very suspicious of everything that happened with that case. And I've been kind of I haven't really pushed the case per se like I do other things. It's really up to the family whether they want to move forward with it. But if they call a Rabbi, I want you to do this, I'm ready to do it because my job is to bring the justice to the stolen lives in the community. And the way she was murdered, I just don't agree with the findings that it's just be a closed case that she just walked in by herself. That's impossible. And then if you look at the video, the actual features or the pictures that was on her, she was physically beat. If you look at her clothes, it was all dirty. If you look at everything about those that just doesn't add up. She had a busted lip. Her clothes was like kind of just like open. There were so many things that says that she was physically tortured or beaten. There's no way for her to go in that freezer like that. Not of anything that you could think of, or any theory that could be brought up. That woman, the girl, she was murdered. That's my opinion.
Let's talk about your theory on the violence in Chicago, how it elevated, and when exactly did it get out of hand to where we're afraid to walk on our own streets now?
Whew, gosh, um, the gun violence is. Let me tell you about that gun violence too. My nephew was murdered. So a lot of things that happened to me in my life that kind of direct me to those type of situations. So the gun violence I have in my family, someone who was murdered in 2014. So I had kind of a lot of the understand the nuances and the pain and suffering of that. That was my drive to get into that issue. When it comes to the gun violence, we have an annual year total of over 500 homicides, maybe over 2,600 shootings. Just this past Memorial Day, we set a record of over 40 shootings and 10 murders in one weekend. That's horrific, and it set a record since 2015. That goes to show that we have a major problem. And I went on record in a press conference on that issue, and I said to Mayor Lightfoot, evidently, that whatever is happening in your office when you're talking to the superintendent that was at the time, Eddie Johnson, evidently we're not having the community such as myself who was on the ground. I actually walked the streets. People don't know this. I walk the streets. I call up the police and say I'm going to go in this area, just have someone in the area to uh, just have a monitoring of myself when I'm in the area. I actually walk the streets. I talk to people. The time during the time when the most horrific, the biggest problem before the Memorial Day setting of the record was the shooting at a barbershop in Chicago known as Gotcha Faded. And when I got, that was during the weekend of Martin Luther King's birthday to be celebrated. And I had an action set together to do a public or like on a street type of event to honor his legacy of having been in the community and just make a day of service. But when that event happened, I immediately made changes and I moved my service and all my program to that barbershop. And I stood right there in front of that barbershop and I saw all the bullets. I saw the bullet shells. I saw the aftermath. I saw like the different where every bullet went and everything. I didn't get a chance to meet the mother, but I did get to talk to her very extensively about the issues and what happened to her children. That was the biggest, the most recent to the Memorial Day massacre, which we have seen in Chicago. But the problem is there's so much disparities in our city. There's so much where no community, equal opportunities, no jobs, there are programs. Children don't have anything to do. There's no mentoring programs. Rahm Emanuel, the outgoing mayor, closed down several of Chicago's schools. Those schools, if they close down, again, they want to bring a police academy here, $95 million. We have over maybe 8 buildings, massive buildings that's sitting right now that can be used and turned into something that can be an asset to the community to bring structure, to bring volume, to bring something to look forward to, programs that can impact these people that's in our city. But it's just sitting there collecting dust. There's several abandoned buildings. That's a haven for this gun violence. There's like maybe literally over 1,600 buildings are sitting right now. There are havens for the women of color murder because that's where the serial killer, they use that to when they do the murder, they dump the bodies behind abandoned buildings and then just go on to next case or next victim they want to take out. So by having those buildings sitting there, that is a contributor of the gun violence, of the drug trafficking, and all the different graffiti and all the things, the gangs and everything that you want to call it, everything that goes into that. The city is sitting here just allowing this to happen. And I was on a bus one time, and it was just something just told me to take a picture. I was looking at my corner of my left eye. I see these guys getting ready to put flowers in a flowery pot. I said, wait a minute. We have all this time to have flowers being planted, beautify the city, but at the same time, the city of where the people of color lives is not getting any beautification of the city, of the neighborhoods, rotting trees, garbage everywhere, You have fences look crazy. I mean, it just looks like a war zone, and it just brings the trauma and the disparity and the lifestyle to a lower minimum, which helps to contribute to the gun violence in our city. It contributes as opposed to being helpful. I walked around the city in the streets and take pictures. At one point in time, when I get enough data, I will do like a documentary on this, even on the women of color murdered. We'll do a documentary on that as well, to give this story, these stories, the level of coverage and awareness it deserves. But the gun violence is tremendously a major problem. I actually look forward to when it's cold. That's
Yeah.
terrible. Forward
Yeah.
to when it's cold
That's true.
as
That's true.
opposed to being warm because that's when it spikes up. Every weekend, I have to look at the totals and I make it like a routine to look at the news and look at where I can find the different totals for what the weekend looks like. And I always get literally over 30 shootings or maybe 10, 5, between 10, 5 murders in the city. And it's a horrific problem here. It's a horrific problem.
I'm going to tell you. By the way, Facebook, we are on YouTube, Global Family TV. If you want to see the Rabbi, but I just came on here as well. Rabbi, let's talk about,
Yes.
and we talked about the weather, and that is so ironic because we actually fear when it gets warm in our city because we know what's going to happen. For instance, I usually go for a walk every day, right?
Hmm.
And something told me at this morning, speed it up, speed it up. You always have to listen. And I've been taught as well to always watch your surroundings. Everyone's coming out of the buildings, everyone's coming into the buildings, the white trucks that are right there, blocking the alleyways and so forth. Just so happened I was walking around, I had came back and it was shooting, literal shooting. I'm coming southbound, and in the alley, as I'm passing it, they're shooting in the alley. And I said, they're but by the grace of God. Then there was another time, beautiful young artist. He was, I'll put it this way, he was trying to get his life back together. He had gotten into the music industry, and I've told this story before, but he went to a home where he thought there was a producer. No one saw him again. So, and you may know about the story, but um, the police searched and searched for this young king, right? They couldn't find him. So finally, the family got involved. The mother and father got involved with the investigation. The police went. They went to the home where he was last known to have gone, right? For
Hmm.
this production, this music producing. The police didn't find him. I think about a week later, they went back to the house and they found him. They went back to the house and they found him in the basement behind a washing machine. And and they said that they had rented out the home or something. No one knew, that was going on in the home. This young king lost his life and was behind a washer for a week in the exact same home that the police had already they had already went through. So how can you not find a body, but you find it a week later? But the home is closed up. And I'll never forget the memorial. He had hundreds and hundreds of young people on the streets, and we were lighting candles. And I was thinking about cold. We were lighting candles, and we were lighting them on the stairs going into the home, and they burst because it was so cold. And I just remember it was negative, I think 15 degrees that day when we decided to do it, to do the memorial on the stairs. And just to see those candles burst, that was, that did something to my spirit. It was almost like the creator saying, this city is on fire. This city is bursting wide open with flames. And, and, and that was one story. And then another time, I always would take my grandson to school. I mean, to the bus. He was autistic. So
Mm.
that was our morning ritual. We would walk to the bus, right? He loved that. He knew that that was our time together. Exactly when I was putting on his shoes, I
Mm.
heard gunshots and I heard commotion. This was right outside of my door, right? If I had walked out 2 minutes earlier, we would have gotten shot in the crossfires.
Uh,
There, but by the grace of God, go I. So another time we're sitting in our living room, we're having a good time, gunshots,
mm.
gunshots. I said, okay. Went outside, the police were there, and there was a dead body laying outside of my door.
Oh gosh.
Just that did something. That is a sight that I never ever want to see again.
Man. Yeah.
But that woke me up to the city that I live in, where we are afraid for our children to walk our blocks. Do you remember, Rabbi, when we used to have block associations? We used to have block clubs. And all of the lawns were pristine and the neighbors, it was a village. We helped each other. What happened to the village mentality, Rabbi?
Whew, gosh. I think what happened was a lot of people began to leave, of course. I mean, when you don't have like that teaching, and that's the thing about the community needs teaching, but that's began to diminish because of the fact of more of like the styles change, more priorities change. Again, the systematic oppression has a lot to do with our disparities of where when you're so stressed out, when you don't have uh, finances or money, you find shortcuts, and then things get not put in priority. Or not looking at, okay, I want to make sure my community also is involved, and to be well balanced and be safe. And I believe a lot of things has happened that when there's like putting someone in a cage, putting them in a cage, and only giving that person in the cage just a little bit of water and give him a little food. But at the same time, that's only a little food, a little water. That person is going to be starving, 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 and then he's going to try to find a way of getting out that cage because he knows that he needs to get more fed for himself to be filled in whatever his development is. You unlock that cage, that person has been in that cage so long is going to be a menace to society.
Mm.
That, add that to everything that has happened in a life, maybe having uh, uh, less advantages in his life or her life growing up. You have children having children. You having not a stable family. A father's not in the home. Probably out drinking or maybe doing drugs or even incarcerated. The playbook of the systematic oppression has been the biggest detrimental problem that contributes to everything which you just said. The end result. This took this took generations to get to where we have just such a
Generations.
decay of the decline. The time of where we I remember I used to be able to go outside and run my bike,
Yes.
and my mother said, be home before you get the street lights
Yes.
come on. Or when you out in the street, this person know you, this person know you, this person know you,
Yes.
and if you don't answer where your mother is, she knows that she can call this person and know where you're
Yes.
at. That's where it used to be because of the time. That's when we were all in that family oriented type of situation where the family
Yes.
was very nurturing, very committed to that family structure and the family structure around the resource or the parameters around that home. But when you have all the decline happening, the father is now unemployed. Schools
Wow.
are not up to where they need to be. You have the distractions that we see from our young children are driven to the things that are of the negative as opposed up to the positive. I was at the gas station, just to add to this point here. I was at the gas station, and a young man was there standing at the door. He said, "Rabbi, can you give me some change?" I said, "Excuse me?" I said, "Do you work?" First and foremost, you're a young man. I'm getting off of work. So what makes you think you can't work? Let me just keep it real. I said to you, I said to him, I said, um, where's your parents at? He said, "Oh, at home." I said, "How old are you?" He said, "I'm 15. So you asking me for money and you're able to work. And I'm just getting off of work. You see my work clothes. You asking me for work money. But what are you doing about it? Why don't you go and ask the accent of the parking lot something, but you're standing at the door, holding the door and saying that's gonna be your end result." And I say, is this what you really want to be in life? See, we forget of that one-on-one talking to these young folks. I could have done everything possible. I just got off work, wanted to just relax and get out these clothes and do whatever I want to do. But I took the time out with that young man. You see what I'm saying? I took the time out with that young man. I said to him, is this what you want to be? Someone standing at the door, holding the door. Is this what you are? This is your goal? And he said, "No, sir, this is not my goal." I said, "So what are we going to do about this?" He couldn't answer me. I said, "What you need to do is go and ask this place for an application, and you fill it out. You fill it out, and you do whatever you can do to get a job here. If it's not here, do it somewhere else. But don't go out like this." And that's what we need to be honest with our children. Say to them, don't go out like this. We got to be men to these children. We got to be men to these children to give them the tools and the lessons. But when the father's out the home, they don't get that over the years. Right. When the father is out the home, they can get that one-on-one that conversation that I gave that young man. I said to you, I may not see you again ever, but don't be someone standing here begging someone else, because if I didn't take the time out, I'm not gonna give you the money. I'm giving you lessons of life lessons to keep you motivated and to show that there's a better way to make yourself better. I said to him, I said, "What's in your pocket?" He said, "You pulled some money out." I said, "Wait a minute, hold on, stop here, hold time out. You standing right here begging for money, you got money in your pocket, so that tells me what you're doing. You're scamming the people, you're scamming your own people." So I broke it down to the young man. I said, "You can, all what we're dealing with right now, you're gonna rob from someone else for your own selfish purposes?" I said to you, you absolutely are being a menace to your people as opposed to being an asset to your people. This is not who we are as people. This is not who we are. We are not someone to scam each other. That's what the oppressor wants us to do. That's what the oppressor wants to do. And I said to him, I said, "I don't want to see you here again. I want to see you doing something productive for yourself, because this is not your future. Standing here holding the door is not a future." And that's why I left it at him at that with that. But see, those things is missing. It's missing in our community. And then another example of what's missing. I was at Walmart one weekend. And I saw two young men standing there with their mask thing. They had a mask. You know how you get the mask on? We walked around the mask. I had my mask on, but they had the mask not properly put on. I said, "Come here." See, we don't do that. I said, "Come here." I said, "Do you understand what we're dealing with right now? Do you understand that you are 72% of being eliminated from this COVID-19? And you're putting the mask halfway down to be cool, to look cute, or whatever you want to try to call it, a fashion statement." I said to him, "Put that mask on correctly." And we as men do not give that teaching of firm tutelage for our young men to be able to have something to gravitate to build character, build structure, and to give them some positive of what is necessary for them to grow. And the young man that was listening, his buddy, he put his mask up. because I was teaching them at that point. I could have done everything else. Had my groceries in my hand. I could have done everything else. I saw an opportunity to teach our people. And that's what we must always remember. Whenever there's an opportunity, we must give teaching to these children because they don't have anything. They get all the negativity out there. They get all the things that is filling their mind up of not having how to make it and resort to wrong things. And then like I advocate for the jails right now. I see these young men coming into the jail system. It's pathetic. I'm standing out there with my bullhorn and seeing carloads of young men where I advocate to. Young men walking into that jail because they did not have the tutelage of me giving these lessons like they should have been given long time growing up to these ages. So the gun violence coming to that is the explosion of where the core is not sustained. If the core is sustained, we don't have gun violence. We don't have where our women are murdered. We don't have where our sisters are not being mistreated and called the worst names in the book instead of calling them the queens and saying they are the mothers of our fruit. That's what should have been done if it's established where the core was back during the time where we're growing up. All that has been diminished because of distractions, because of having all these social medias out there. Social media has been somewhat, before it got to where it is now, positive, but it's absolutely a menace to us now. It's not even good for us now. The children are buying into all that negativity that's contributing to all this.
Let me ask you this, Rabbi. When it comes to
Yeah.
our young women, what is some advice that you would give to them? Because we know how they're carrying themselves out in our streets now, and I do believe that they will not be honored, they will not be respected because of how they carry themselves. But if they're continuously being programmed by the television and radio that this is what they are, they start emulating what they hear. So, what is your advice to the young queens out here today? And this is for any city.
Oh yeah, gosh. My advice. Uh, we have to refer back to our ancestors. I'm constantly speaking that tone, that way of our ancestors worked and lived. The family structure was sound. Everyone depended on everyone, and everyone had to contribute something to
So,
the table. Had to contribute something, and you were held accountable if you didn't contribute to the table. We don't do that today. So when a father is working, the mother's working, and then that daughter is going to school, that's your job. Remember we used to have. I remember my mother say, "That's your job,"
that's your
and
job.
I didn't understand what that meant. I'm now when I'm in my adulthood and have my children. She said, "That's your occupation. You must go to school and bring something back to the table to say you have contributed to the home." We need to see that. So for our young children and our young women, our young sisters, I worked this street of seeing our sisters being murdered. I went to a crime scene to see blood on the ground. I seen where pictures of girls being murdered, the mangling and everything that you can imagine. Uh, the gruesomeness of what it looks. I have to internal. I have to actually see these things to be able to teach this and to make it be strong when I advocate. I have to really look at this stuff. I can't avoid it. So my advice to our young girls out here, um, we need them to refer to examples that's going to give them the inspiration to better have themselves be better directed. Um, Having them out in the streets is not the answer. It's so much danger for them to be out there. There's nothing productive being out in the street late at night. Like last night, I was out there. I was coming back from work, and I see these kids, these girls. I'm like, where's the mother at? Where's the father at? They're out here and in the middle of the night should be at home because the stay-home order is in play. You're not an essential worker with your child. You're out playing. So um, it is very important that the young girls listen to their parents, or even if they don't have parents, find someone of an adult that can give inspiration and tutelage to help them along the way to give them the education and the advice and experience. Because what they're going to deal with is going to be 10 times worse, 10 times worse right now before in the future. Because right now it's even worse now. I see children missing, girls are missing. I advocate for the human trafficking. Every day I see someone missing. Little kids, little girls who are just like this one, like 5 minutes away from the mother or father and doing some things, and then they get snatched. They get snatched and taken away and never seen again. Um, I also tell children to choose their friends wisely. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen girls being beat up by their friends, thinking that they're friends. They're not your friends if they're not being honest with you. If they're not being honest with you on telling you when you are not doing something right, they're not your friends. I always tell them to not be so involved with being in cliques, because cliques demonstrate and bring someone into a situation that they cannot control. Uh, a good example is Kanika Jenkins. Her friends were not her friends. They led her to that murder. Those two young girls that were with her, they clearly knew and clearly knows what really happened to Kanika. That's a great example of showing that if you choose your friends wisely, that will not be the case of your end. Because then, if they don't match your way of understanding, if they don't have your same moral, your standards, and things of that say of what you've been grown up on, the way the standard of your parents, if they don't have those standards, they're not your friends. If they look and talk crazy and don't and is out of touch with reality, they are constantly in trouble. They are the ones that you want to avoid. They are not the ones that have our children and should not be the one that a young person is going to be involved with. Um,
You know,
also,
I'm sorry. I was thinking also, Rabbi, that we've allowed the television. And I talk about this a lot. We've allowed the television to raise our children now. The games, especially the kill, murder, death games. This is getting into their subconscious little minds when they're consistently in front of a game, and they're killing people. I did an expose about someone that we found, a man, a few men, and they were
mhm,
actually, they have the games now where you can talk to people from different parts of the world. They thought they were talking to children, but they weren't. Some
mm,
of these were actually grown men that were communicating with the children through their gaming systems. And so I
mm,
brought that out. I think it was last summer, the different games and how they actually can track the children, how the
mm,
hackers get into the games, because a lot of times the parents will allow their children to use a credit card in order to buy skins or to buy other things on the game. But when you put that information in, the hackers now know your parents' name. Then they can track where the parents live and where you live. So there are a lot of pedophiles that are actually on these games now speaking to children, or they're using voice changers to speak to children to set them up. You see what I'm saying? It's so
mm,
dangerous out here. I did an expose last summer about some of the pedophiles that we've been finding on the internet that
mhm.
have been threatening to rape children and so forth. And they still have channels on YouTube, and
Yeah,
people support these channels. I've never
yeah,
seen so much insanity in my life, but I
yeah,
realized that this is the world that we live in now. Everything goes. I never thought that I would hear some of the music that I hear now. So that is another reason why I started the Global Families, because I said I'm tired of hearing trash. I'm
Hmm.
tired of hearing the B's, the H's, and so forth. We're gonna find artists that have a talent, but don't have to destroy their people to bring out their talent, and that's what we're finding now.
Yeah.
What do you think about the television and the radio now?
Uh, I don't personally. I don't listen to the new rap that's going on. I mean, that just I can't even deal with it. The old school way, how it was talking about a struggle, talking about unity, black power, the red, black and green. That type of caliber of that time. That's the rap I listen to. But this stuff that right now is totally unacceptable, and I cannot even do it. But to answer your question, those artists that write this lyrics that contributes to that, they are doing a disservice to us as a people. And here's the thing: it's sold and promoted by America. A lot of us don't like when I say that. When I really go to the root of the problem, it's allowed by America to promote these damages to our people. It's allowed to destroy our minds. It's allowed to do everything possible to make us into this wild animal, as opposed to being a responsible flower growing, being nurtured, and planted by the seed of their parents. That now has become the parental guidance of the music, of the rap artists, of the fashion lines, of seeing the newest fads, seeing everything that you're seeing that's all in the wrong direction. And then it again adds all to with all these combustible elements of the gun violence, missing women, calling names, and domestic violence, seeing all those type of things. I was on a live one time, and I made a statement on Facebook and said, what did I say to this? I was talking about this situation we're dealing with right now with the murders of Gerald Floyd. And I said to a statement that where there needs to be a bit of understand that we need to do this work, and we need to make a difference and try to find ways to get find justice for this family. And this gentleman came onto my live, but the young woman was talking to me. And he interjected and said to her, "Stay out of a woman's place." I said, "Wait a minute. She's talking to me first and foremost."
Right.
But the point is, the man felt the need to disrespect her for no reason. That's the playbook of what we're seeing in these lyrics, in the television programs, in the games, all what we're seeing, that it's a license to us to act out of our main nature that we were from our ancestors is totally different. I don't even recognize our people the way we used to be. I don't even recognize them because this is not the way and how we were when it comes to family structure, how we talk to each other, how we communicate, how we dialogue or even articulate ourselves. We don't even articulate properly. It goes far deeper that we have seen, and then all that contributes to the fact of seeing these lyrics. I'm on a train trying to enjoy my ride home from work, and then we got some young guy blasting his music so everyone hears. You got headphones, but you're going to decide that it's you're going to intervene in my space, coming off of work, and you're going to interrupt my space to enjoy my ride home. But you feel I need to listen to your lyrics because you want to provide you want to have your pleasure and your fun and satisfy your needs. But I have to be volunteer myself without giving permission to volunteer. That's the problem we're seeing. That's totally uh, different. That these lyrics and these permissions to act this way that is detrimental to our community, and I hold accountable those the P Diddy's and from the Ice Cubes and from the Simmons, all those different founders of what we call old school rap or how old school hip hop. They are the ones that put those who are speaking these languages and messages that goes against the public enemies that gave a message of unity and togetherness against the different groups that talks about building structure and working hard and giving yourself, making yourself more accessible and more to be more of not a problem, to be an asset to community. Those things are now eliminated more with replacing. Oh, you got to go get high. You got to go get the best, get the best girl with looking, not judging her based off her character of her appearance and mind, but looking at her appearance and physical structure. All that's eliminated. We're not even communicating and finding out, okay, where she's been in life. Do you have an education? Do you have a home? Is something? What is your interest? Those type of things are eliminated from that lyrics that's been said. It's all fast. It's all about production. It's not nothing nurturing in it. And our children are the the victims being preyed upon these industries that are contributing to the decay of our community. And I'm gonna use the word decaying because right now it's worse now. We can only imagine when we are not able to, I'm not able to get on the street any longer. We can only imagine when the rabbi got to hang this tallit up and say, I can't do this any longer. I'm weak. I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm not able to do this any longer. What's going to be the next generation going to take my place? I'm worried. I'm worried and I'm absolutely afraid that if I stop being the one that gives the morale of what's necessary and needed, what's going to look like? That young man right now is still out there pushing drugs and pushing gang violence, robbing people on the CTA train right now. Just this the other day, we see more spike of the transit right now than any other occupation of transportation. The CTA. That's I never heard of that. Of seeing that someone cannot pay their fare to get on a train and going to be subject to being beat up, robbed, or murdered. That's what's happening in Chicago. That's the time we're living in. So if I gotta hang this stuff up and say I need a retirement, y'all, I'm worried. I'm really seriously worried that what we're seeing now, these children are going to be even more hard to control than anything we ever seen before, because the decay is so rapidly that we're losing them very quickly.
I think, Rabbi, when I look at the children now in Chicago, I think of the Walking Dead, walking zombies, because
Yeah,
and I hear how they talk. I've never seen anything like it, where you can hear 10-year-olds,
yeah,
8-year-olds, 12-year-olds that curse and that are so violent. And I know it is because, and all you have to do is follow these children home, and that will explain why they behave the way they do. I was up one morning, it was 2 in the morning. There was shooting. I
mm,
look out the window. There are two children coming. Now, this is 2 in the morning. There's two children coming around the corner. One is 5 and one is 8. And I know that for a fact. There's no parents. They're coming into their building holding each other's hand at 2 in the morning because the mothers are so busy running the streets that the children go and come as they please. This was right after the shooting. I said, we are losing our children. We are
yeah,
literally losing our children. We have babies having babies, is what I call them.
yeah,
Babies
yeah.
having babies. And I know of certain women I've met that have 8, 9, and 10 children. And all of the children were fostered out because
Mm,
the mother was on crack. Well,
mm-hmm,
what needs to be done in these type of situations? We are now birthing crack babies. We're birthing meth babies. We're birthing, you see, because when you're under the influence, a lot of times you will sleep with anyone just to get that next fix. And what happens? You have children that are now damaged for the rest of their lives. It's almost as if we, our cities are turning into walking zombies. And I believe that this is what some want. They want to see us fail. They want to see our children fail. This is what I called organized chaos. It is organized. It is not happenstance. This is organized
Yep.
to eliminate a race of
Yep.
people. And I
Yep.
know this, and no one can tell me any different. When our
Mm.
brothers, our sisters are being, they're being killed like we're trash, when and everyone is so upset about the Floyd situation. We have that every year.
Huh.
We have
Hello.
it every year. Every year there's a different
Yep.
name.
Every year.
You just erase the name and put in the new name. We've
Yep.
been murdered on our streets.
Yep.
What do we need to do, Rabbi? Especially when it comes to the police department and the police brutality. What do we need to do in every city?
Well, first and foremost, that's a very good topic. I'm glad you asked me that. I gave a lot of information on Facebook. First thing foremost, we need to have a conversation. And that's what we don't do as a people, have conversations. We're more interested in going to where the rush is, or where the spectacular is, as opposed to not going to the spectacular and sitting down with each other to talk about these issues. That's what our ancestors did. Our ancestors sat down and hit. Let me tell you what they did. A lot of people, I'm glad you got your viewers out there. I want them to hear this. Our ancestors is the key to stop the police brutality. Our ancestors is the key to stopping the gun violence. Our ancestors is the key of stopping, bringing and training young men to be men, to train our ladies to be women, to be nurturers of the family again. Guess what? You said it and hit it right on the head. It was planned for us to go in a different direction. So, in other words, our ancestors during the time when they were, history is repeating itself. I said that. History is repeating itself. But during the time it's being repeated, we're not listening. Because if we look at the situation, our ancestors went through the same thing. Our ancestors went through the same thing of being murdered, police brutality, violence being harassed and racially profiled. This is the same thing we're dealing with. So in other words, what they did was they said, well, we got to sit down. We got to sit down and figure out a way to survive this. Hear what I just said. Sit down to survive. We have not sat down to have a conversation of how to survive. Therefore, our ancestors said, and where they talk at? We don't look at the history. They talked in the churches. The churches was turned into town halls. That's where town hall comes from, where a lot of political levels use town hall. It didn't start in the political level. It started during the time of when our ancestors had nowhere to talk about the issues and the problems in our community and being murdered. That's where they met. That was the meeting ground. The meeting ground, everyone showed up. Here's the thing. If you didn't show up, you were held accountable. That's not happening in our community. I said to someone, we don't hold ourselves accountable when we murder each other. We don't hold ourselves accountable when we murder that young baby. I put a picture of Cupcake. I said, I know everyone's out there in Minnesota, but I'm giving Cupcake the reverence and the acknowledgement she deserved, because she was murdered by her own people. She was murdered by her own people. And everyone else is going to every different city but not looking at their own city of seeing the same thing happening. No one's getting outraged about the women of color murder. No one's getting outraged about human trafficking. No one's getting outraged. And it's our people. It's our people that's going through this. So back to, I'm getting up a little bit. But what they did was they sat down and they sat for hours. They sat down for hours till they come to a conclusion of what they're going to do. They came to a conclusion and voted. See, this is beautiful, man. If you look at the Congress, look at Congress. That's how your ancestors did things. Your ancestors sat down and there was a person, a president of that group did the votes. Okay, you vote this, you vote this. They were having Congress meetings. Everything you're seeing in the government is a replica of what your ancestors did. They saw that and learned that. They learned that America stole that from our people, how to do business. They learned how to do business in that town hall to find out what they're going to do to survive, because they had to worry about walking the streets and seeing this guy with the hood on that's going to probably rape them or steal them or even hang or lynch them. Those town halls were so important because they did roll call as well. They did roll call to ensure that everyone here is, okay, you here, you here, you here, okay, we all here. Oh, wait, we do another roll call. That person's missing, meaning someone's murdered. They always did a census. They do a census now. They didn't start that. That comes from you. That comes from you. You taught this system how to function in a government, in the town hall. So they stole everything from us. When you sat there trying to figure out how to survive being murdered, you sat down with your people and you said, okay, you gonna go here, you in charge of this, you in charge of that, you in charge of this, you in charge of that door, you in charge of making sure walk this person, this grandmother to our home. Everyone had a job and responsibility. And guess what? They didn't have social media. They didn't have social media. They didn't have email. They didn't have TikTok. They didn't have cell phones. They didn't have what we got now. They had word of mouth. They talked to each other. They made sure everyone, before they adjourned their meeting, that everyone was on the same page. That's powerful. I don't think we understand how powerful that is. Everyone knew what they're going to do. Powerful, and before anyone adjourned, everyone can repeat what was said. So their listening skills and their attention span were such at an ecstasy that we can't even understand, because you got young man in the school can't sit 5 minutes without looking at his cell phone, can't sit 5 minutes of sitting there clubbed up in class. Their attention span was so tuned in to what's going on that they didn't have books. They didn't have books. They didn't have those type of things. They can sit there and just digest all that information and retain it. They couldn't write, couldn't read, couldn't do none of those things, but they listened. They sat down and listened to what the strategy of what the leader, and here's the thing, they have respect for their leadership. We don't have respect for the leadership. I sit out there in the streets, and I've seen these young men, they don't even say, Rabbi, why are you out here? Why you got that sign? Why are you out here? Give me some information to help me to get out of this rut I'm in. I see you out, evidently you have something to offer. You have something to offer that I'm seeing you out here. They don't even do that. But our ancestors, those children were feeding, sucking in the wisdom from our ancestors, from those elders, from those mothers, from those grandfathers. They sat down and tutelized those children to make sure they had the understanding. But back to strategy of surviving, they said, okay, we're murdered, y'all. We're gonna find a way to survive this. And we're gonna make America change. They said, well, this is what we're going to do. They didn't have email. They didn't have no. They didn't have Twitter. They had none, no instantaneous stuff. But they said we're going to do a 100 nationwide simultaneous shutdown of the bus system. Remember that?
Yep.
We were taught the boycott of the bus system. How did they do it? How did they
No
accomplish
social media. No social media. Yeah.
a nationwide boycott at the same time? And they shut it down. So this protesting I see out here right now is not going to work because we have not had a conversation like our ancestors. We have not got sat down about how to strategize. We have not sat down to find who's responsible, what's your talent, what you're good at. We don't have any idea what everyone's at this point. Are you a good speaker? Are you a good fire teller? Are you good on the phone? Are you good with typing? Are you good with carrying bags? Are you strong or weak? We have none of that. That's it. This is so deep, man. It's so deep.
It reminds me of the Panther era, how everyone had something that they could do,
Yes.
and collectively they got it done. You know what I'm saying? Okay, you were
Yeah.
good at writing. You were good at doing the newspapers. You're good at cooking for the children, and so it was one mind. You know what I'm saying? Working for the people. That is so lacking because in this generation it's the me generation. I'm worried about me. You deal with you, but I'm worried about me. But how many can truthfully say I'm going to be on the front line fighting for your people as well? There are not too many
Right.
that can actually claim that title. Everyone can march, but what I'm saying with the marching is that's organized chaos as well. What I mean
Yes,
by
it
that
is.
is, of course, they want us to march, just like they wanted us to march in the 60s. They wanted us to march before that. They want us to march so they can let loose on us. You see what I'm saying? It's that powder keg effect. Let's do something to drive them crazy. Well, the COVID's not working, so let's give a sacrifice and watch them go crazy. And and,
Yep.
and let's do it visually, for added impact. Let Because we know someone's going to be filming this. See, that is what I'm thinking about this whole situation, is that those officers knew that they were going to be filmed. You see what I'm saying? And so to blatantly take someone's life publicly, they knew what was about to happen, and we fell into the trap. So now what's going to happen? We already know what's going to happen, and it's happening now. They're going to take our people out now. Now, we started with one brother that lost his life. Within the next couple of days, see what's going to happen. This is organized chaos at its finest.
Yeah.
Organized.
Yeah.
I'm not stupid. I see some things some people don't see,
There you
but
go.
when a brother is jogging down the middle of the street and just by chance it's being videotaped that he's being murdered
Uh,
in the middle of
uh,
the street. Come on now. Come
yeah.
on now. Come on. Maybe it's just me. They
Hey,
say
you.
that I'm a conspiracy
Hey,
theorist,
you.
but make it make sense, because none of this it makes perfect sense if you think about it, because they're being very visual now. They're throwing it up in our faces. Like, this is what we think about you. This is what we think about your lives. We're actually going to let you film, or we're going to film the atrocities against your people for everyone to see, to let you know that
There
we are
you
still
go.
in charge, that your life is meaningless on this planet. You see? And of course, what happens every time we march, we tear up some shit, and the next year, another brother is on the pavement,
Yep.
or another sister is on the pavement.
Yep.
Nothing has changed.
And
The marching does not work. It
well, here's
doesn't.
the thing. Here's the thing.
Yes, go ahead.
Here's the thing. When it goes to that marching, let me tell you what it is. We're
Mhm.
so, the part I talked about meeting, we're only putting all the weight on marching, which is not where it's supposed to be. The weight of marching is not an absolute. They're out there right now marching. That's not what it was designed to do. Marching and protesting was only to be used to a rally call. When you did all the work, when you sat down and did all the conversation and did all, okay, everyone know what you're going to do, and this is our strategy and everything from that point. And then you get out in the public and then you do a little rally thing. The puppet is like a, what do you call, like a you know how they had that person that get the crowd going?
Yes.
That's what that
Hype
person.
man. Hype man.
Yeah, that's what that was for.
Hype man.
But
Yep.
our people are putting so much weight on the protesting and on the marching that's the whole thing that's supposed to be done, but it's not. That's not what it's designed to do. It's only supposed to do so much to get everyone riled up. Okay, we're getting ready to do what we talked about, all the hours of preparation and all the compromising. Okay, this works, this don't work. What do you feel about this? Oh, this is a good idea. We could probably mesh that together. Maybe that what you say could be used for another day. It was work done. It was work done. Then you had a march. Then you had a rally call. Then you have a pep rally. That's what it's really designed to do. But our people we're taught now to let that be the absolute and not have any conversation. So then someone says to me, well, we marching is not working because the reason it's working because you put so much emphasis on marching and protest. You've not done the work. You have not sat down. Okay, when you're marching, when you're talking, what's left out of the conversation that's supposed to be in the conversation? Accountability. Accountability. That's what you're going to come to compromise. Who murdered us? What's the accountability? Right now, these marches, no accountability. That's why they keep murdering us. They keep murdering us because we have not held them accountable, which is what our ancestors did. They held them accountable by doing the boycott of the bus transit. They did that. That's how they sat down, came to agreement.
They shut down.
Shut it down. We shut it down.
And I tell everyone all the time, do you know the power that we have with our dollars? You want to hurt a city? Take away the dollars. You want to hurt a city? We did that in one little city in the suburbs because they kept price gouging the gasoline. We decided for 3 days we weren't going to get gas. So what we did was we got gas before the strike. For 3 days, they felt the impact. Our money has power.
Yes, you see absolutely. You're being distributor.
Yeah, and they're giving us, they're placating us now with the stimulus check and the PUA. They're giving us crumbs to keep us pacified. You see, so you can do whatever you want to do to the people, but give them a little bit. Give them some extra food stamps. Give them some extra feeding programs. Give them some money every month. But we're still going to do what we want to do to them. You see what I'm saying?
And what that leads to, you being under oppression. That is what I'm so against. I hear so much in the Chicago area about this concept of reparations and having the marijuana, which I'm totally against both. Here's my reason why. I'm against the reparations because for the fact is, yes, they're supposed to give us our reparations for slavery, but be honest. Let's be honest. All the years we've been in slavery, every nation has got reparations but us. Why is that?
Yeah.
Why is that? It's the reason why you've been sitting, begging, pleading all these years after slavery. It's a reason. They know if they give you this money, you out of here. So it's on purpose to keep you down, begging, sitting, and you're playing, like you say, being played. I don't know how much we've been played. We've been, what do they say? You bend over, and you get it in the. That's what we're getting right now. We're getting in the behind.
We are,
We're
look, this
getting
is Rabbi,
started
but
without
we
protection,
live in
with,
this city.
without protection, and not even lubrication. And you know
Yeah,
what? It's even enlarged.
wait.
You
You
know,
know what they say in our city? You know, you did that. You didn't even give me a cigarette afterwards. That's the way I
yeah,
feel all the time. Like we keep getting stuck, but they not even giving us a Newport afterwards. Like, damn,
man.
at least give us something after you stick it to us. You know what I'm saying? I know what you're saying, Rabbi. And this is a real rabbi. He is real rabbi, but he's from Chicago, so you know it is what it is here.
I'm keeping
You
it
gotta,
real.
yeah, you gotta be tough in the city. You can't be
Yeah.
punks in this city. No, no, especially when you have boots on the ground. Rabbi,
Yes,
I want to do a part two with you. But I
yes.
want, in closing, I would like for you to give some words of wisdom to our people on today, to those that are oppressed, to those that are going through, you know, whatever they're going through, whether it's gun violence, whether it's a family member that's missing, um, sex, human trafficking. Give them some words of encouragement on today as we close out.
Well, I first I want to appreciate you having me on, and I thank God for this program, and I hope that Almighty brings the several listeners that your platform can provide that level of need what's needed in our community. So thank you, my sister, for having that, and then to your guests, your listeners, I appreciate them listening to me. They're giving some words of my understanding how I work in the community. But I want to say to everyone, we're living in difficult times. It's no question. But my thing is, when we're more stronger together. When it comes to the gun violence, when it comes to the police brutality, the human trafficking, sex trafficking, and all the immigration issues, and even the rhetoric that's coming out of the White House at this point. I believe if we unite and have a conversation to begin the process of healing, that's why. And one sister, I said to her, I said, "You my sister. You're my sister." We have to always get to that point of loving each other and loving what each other means to each other. For the families out there, I want to just give them the encouragement to stay strong, to be committed and stay focused. That things that are happening is absolutely detrimental to them. But we do know that the strong survive, and the issues that we're dealing with right now will never going to overcome us. We have always been a people that persevere to the problems, to all of the circumstances. We are a people that have been the world's greatest mystery. How in the world they have survived this onslaught of slavery? How, when the oppressor put these things before us, that we found the way to survive. And I can only encourage the families, if there's families out there, that you going to survive this and you're going to beat this, and we're going to absolutely come out being victorious in the end. And I just want to thank you, everyone, for listening to me. God bless.
Well, I thank you. I thank you so very much, Rabbi. You have taught us, as I know you would. You have encouraged us, and we need encouragement in this time. I'm going to stay very close to you because I have a
Thank
feeling
you.
we're going to be meeting very soon, and we
Yes,
will be in the field together soon. Since I
yes.
am now back in the city with my people, so peace, power, understanding, wisdom, and light. I thank you, Rabbi, and you are welcome to the Global Family TV at any time.
Hallelujah. Thank you. God bless.
God bless you, Pastor. Rabbi. Did I say Pastor? Rabbi. Well, it's been great, you all. I thank you. I thank you. I'm not in my office, I'm still moving, but it has been great. This is what we need, and I'm going to start bringing much better content from now on to Global Family TV. So that's it, that's all. Love you all, and be safe out there.